We are live at the Crawford Hotel in Denver, Colorado. I'm actually sitting next to one of my favorite people and best friends in the whole world, Rich Marshall.
Equal right
I
back
came to
you,
your
brother.
hometown, and I know this setup is a little atypical, and we are looking up at you as we speak right now. But welcome to EdTalks Live. On today's show, we're going to talk. We're going to hear Rich's story, and Rich actually came initially from the pastoral work.
Yes, 40
And
years of pastoring.
Now he has a TV show that literally goes out to hundreds of millions of households. EdTalks Live is next. All right, what's up, party people? My name's Ed Rush, 5-time #1 best-selling author, your host for the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. I have right next to me Rich Marshall, best-selling author, host of God at Work on GodTV, which is on DirecTV, amongst other channels, which streams to the known universe. When I was on your show, I think there were something like 200,000 people in India alone who actually watched that show. It was pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, we're in 100 million homes in India.
100 million homes.
And so,
Not just in India, but also here in the United States.
Yeah, well, 20 million homes worldwide.
Wow.
That have access. Not everybody may be watching at the same moment.
Right, like this show.
Yeah, but it's there. So
today we're going to talk a little bit about your journey as a TV host. Now,
Yeah.
now before the I don't know why I had to tell. I don't even know why. So I'm just going to say it before the show today. I said, "Hey, Rich, just so you know, today it's a conversation, not an interview." And Rich said, "You know what my wife said to me? You were telling me that Wilma said,
let your guest talk." Yeah.
He said, my wife just said to me, you should just let your guests talk."
Well,
So now I'm going to let you go ahead.
so what frustrated her and me is when somebody asks a question, answers the question, then turns to the guest, and all they can do is say yes or no.
What you said, right?
Yeah, right. So don't ask a question and answer it. Just ask the question.
So I'm going to jump into chat. By the way, if you haven't already done so, jump in on the right-hand side. It's over here on YouTube, on Facebook. It's below. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do. We're going to have a good time today, and we're going to get to your questions, too. So I'd love for you to be able to ask questions to Rich about your journey. Again, Rich wasn't born as a television host.
No.
But you know what? You came a long way. I remember watching, because I was there when you filmed your first, I think it was your first 16 episodes you did over 2 days.
Right, yeah.
And then I remember watching 40th episode or whatever, and I
Right.
said, man, you got good at this really quickly. So we're going to talk about that journey.
Yeah, there was no practicing.
Well, you were on job training.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah.
Let me do this really quickly. I'm going to show you a clip from Rich Marshall's show, and then we're going to get into your story. So let's do that. I'm going to share my screen, and in a moment, I'm going to jump into chat and say hello to. Hold on a second, I messed this up already. Say hello to some of our longtime friends. What's up, Denise? I haven't seen you for a little while. Welcome back. Hang on a second. I have to make sure that the audio is shared. Check this out.
Rich Marshall here at God at Work on God TV, welcoming you to this segment of the God at Work program. I'm so excited today because a new friend of mine is joining us, Bishop Mark Tolbert from Kansas City. This is a pastor.
Look at that studio, man.
Yeah, the studio's great.
That's pretty impressive. Shows out of the studio. You told me you did like 50 shows out of that beautiful studio.
Did 110 shows out of that studio.
110 shows.
And they're running reruns right now because I'm going to be setting up here in Denver in a room just like this. Probably not this one. And doing all my shows here.
Interesting. So you took your journey out of TV, and again, we're going to get to the discussion of TV. You know what I said I was going to do? I was going to say hello in chat. So let me do this really quickly.
Yeah.
What's up, Barry? Good to see you. Barry was here, Rich, eight minutes early. That's how how punctual man is.
Good for you.
Wendell Buggs, good to see you, buddy, from Houston, Texas. Hello, Delisa, who is helping us through our internet issues. We barely got this one under the wire, by the way.
Thanks for the help.
Greetings, Robert. Good to see you as well. A longtime friend, Robert, there as well. What's up, Denise? Good to see you as well. If you haven't done so, jump into chat. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do. So I am here with my friend Rich Marshall, who's the host of God at Work on GodTV. He's also the author of the book God at Work, which you wrote, if I remember correctly, it was about 25, 30 years ago.
Late 90s, yeah. It actually came out in 2000. I was right in 97, 98, 99, in that area.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, because I know you really well. But for those who are watching at home, tell us where you came from and where you are.
Well, as you mentioned a minute ago, I was a pastor, and that was for a long time. I was a pastor.
Yeah.
However, I'm preaching to these people. I'm looking out there and saying, what I'm saying today has to make sense tomorrow, but it doesn't.
Right.
Because I was telling what the Greek meant on this word or whatever. It's just it was just like blinders came off. Said this doesn't make sense. What I say on Sunday has got to work on Monday. And as I started talking about that, I found out that there was a world out there that I was not speaking to. So the leaders of our church actually recognized that too, and they said, "Why don't you take your message out? Why don't you just leave? We'll pay your salary for a year."
They told you to leave.
Yeah, they encouraged me.
Wait, but they paid you for a year? That's amazing.
They said, "We'll pay your salary for a year while you see if it works." And I had no invitations. And my first invitation was to a living room on a Sunday night where a couple in Minnesota, they still are good friends. I spent all last week with my wife and I, with his wife. He's very sick. He's in hospice care right now, but they're still friends now, 22 years later, whatever it is. We met in their living room with 15 or 20 people. And
wow.
They introduced me to this one, and it went like that until I was doing 40 conferences a year.
Wow.
For business leaders for about 5 years.
So the story, you're in the church environment, but as I remember, you can't stop talking about business.
Well, that's what happened. I said, it's got to make sense tomorrow. So I started talking about business, and the Bible has a lot to say about business. It's full of it. I'd never touched it.
Yeah.
I mean, the parables, suddenly they have a business meaning. So I did that for a year. That's when our elders said, we don't think anybody else is doing this.
Wow.
And you're definitely called to do it. So we'll hold your spot.
It's actually amazing foresight on behalf of the leaders of your church.
Yeah, we're good leaders. Yeah.
To be able to do that. And I'll tell you, if you're familiar with the way the Christian church has worked over the last 30 or 40 years. So marketplace. There's a common term right now called marketplace ministry.
Correct.
Which is basically when a church ministers to people like us who are in business. Rich is in business, okay? When Rich was teaching that, there was no such, that term didn't exist.
No, we sat in a room like this, three of us, and on a whiteboard worked out what the word would be.
Really?
And we said, 20 years from now, a word that defines us will be out there. And we discussed between workplace and marketplace.
Interesting.
And decided that workplace was going to be too confining.
Yeah, that's
marketplace speaks to anybody, a government leader, a doctor, an athlete. So anybody would fit the word marketplace. Plus, it's a Bible word.
Yeah.
Marketplace. Jesus went into the marketplace.
Very good.
So
wow. So how does it feel? I know you're very humble, right? So Rich said I wasn't the only guy. I say you started the whole thing. He said, no, there are other people. But how does it feel now, looking back?
Oh man.
And seeing how this movement has really taken a hold. 30 or 40 years ago, if you were a successful business person in the church environment, you were viewed as a source of income.
Right. Second-class citizen in the kingdom.
Right.
Because,
necessary evil.
The top was here.
Right.
The pastor, the elders, way down here at the bottom of that list.
The business people.
Was a business person.
Yeah.
Because although, like you said, we need your money.
Right.
Come on in. But if we needed to find property, we didn't go to the real estate people.
That's right.
Church. If we had a legal issue, we'd figure it out. I mean, it was craziness.
So how does it feel looking back, seeing how you've been able to make such be a part of such a significant movement.
Just last week, I saw a text between two people that I know, and they were talking about the stuff that I had taught for years.
Wow.
And I said, whoa, back up. I'm looking in on what's happening because.
Wow.
And I'm not involved in it. I'm not touching it. That they may or may not even remember me.
Yeah.
But the point is, what we were saying back in 98, 99, 2000 is now become in the Christian world, at least in the business world, the pastors are still a little slow catching up on this. Hello, Pastor. I'm still your friend. Oh, I love you, but they're a little slow.
That's really funny.
But the business people are grabbing because they need help.
Yeah.
And they need supernatural help.
That's great.
And that's what God can give.
Aubrey says, what I say on Sunday has to work on Mondays. It's actually really interesting because I think most people, I go to church. Mm-hmm. I think most people who are in the business world, entrepreneurial world, truly have a vision to change the world. We want to go out and create great things, but then sometimes we go into the church environment and shift gears and put all that stuff aside for a little while and then do church. But what you were able to do is bring all that together, which I think is so cool. So,
just a short story.
Yeah.
I've got a couple hundred of them.
I know you do, yeah.
But I was at a church in Singapore, and it's a small church, maybe a couple hundred people. And there's a man handing out bulletins at the door. You come in, and he says, hello. And somebody said, you know who that is? I said, no. Who is it? That's the president of Singapore Airlines.
Wow.
And he gives out bulletins in our church, and I'm thinking, you might be wasting some talent right there.
That's right. Isn't it interesting?
This guy's one of the most brilliant business leaders probably in Singapore.
Yeah.
And his job is to hand out a bulletin.
It speaks to a mindset, and I think this is true not just in the church world. This is true in the entire world, where we really do value humility. And I'm not here to say. Humility is a wonderful thing to learn, and it's hard to learn, and it's nice to have when you have some of it. That said, if somebody's one of the worst pendulum swings is when you swing from humility to false humility, and false humility would be, oh no, I'm just this.
Yeah, that's pride at its best.
Isn't it interesting?
Or its worst.
So you have a person like that who literally could transform the organization, but is standing in a place because of the leadership or whatever. So
now maybe he wants to hide.
Yeah, maybe he likes meeting people.
Maybe he likes meeting people. Maybe he desires the anonymity that gives to him. I don't know.
Right. So we're not critics. We're just talking about
I'm just saying the reality is, if you have to do some strategic planning, get him out of the doorway and put him in an office.
Amen.
And think about where you can go, because obviously, smart man.
All right, so I'm here with my friend Rich Marshall. We're talking about how to launch and host your own TV show. Just had a whole bunch of people just join us, Rich, by the way. So I want to just welcome you to the show. We're going to be talking about TV. So you, out of the blue, you've written books. By the way, Rich has written now 3 books that I know of. There was a God at Work. There was a second version of God at Work, and then the last book you wrote was called God at Rest, which I had the opportunity to read before you even released it. And what a great book!
Wrote an endorsement for it. Yes,
it's just. Anyway, so Rich has 3 great books, which you can find all 3 of them on Amazon. And then out of the blue, you got a phone call from I think it was Wade, the CEO, Wade Ward, the CEO from GodTV, and said, "Hey, we want you to have a TV show."
Yeah, well, it was quite like that, but it was.
Ward sounds better that way, though. Out of the blue. No, I know. It's interesting, Greg, because there's never an out of the blue in this world, although every story sounds like that. But tell us the real story.
Well, so
not out of the blue story.
So Ward and I have been friends since he read my first book, and says it really helped focus his life.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 years ago, GodTV had a problem at the leadership top level and needed a new CEO, and actually they needed new ownership because they were way in debt.
Yeah.
They needed somebody to come in and bail them out. So they went to Ward, and Ward's family has some money, and they came along and named Ward as the new president and CEO. He's never done TV in his life, and he calls me, and now he did call me one day. He says, "Hey Rich, what do you know about TV?" I said, "Nothing." "What do you know about GodTV?" I said, "I've watched it a couple times." He said, "I'm going to be taking over GodTV." It's a little longer conversation.
Yeah.
And the Lord told me, "You're coming with me." I said, "Okay, what's that mean?" He said, "I don't know. But I don't know what I'm doing either, and the Lord told me you'd be there." So this is, okay. Does God speak today?
So you got a call out of the blue.
It needs a detailed agreement. And so we started talking, and he said, I want you to serve on the board. So I'm doing that. And one day he said, you know, the reason you're here is because your book changed my life.
Wow.
I think you could change some other people's lives. Why don't you do a TV show? I said, what's it look like? He said, I don't know.
Wow.
Just go design it. And
Really?
And make a show.
Wait, so you had the opportunity to really design the show that you wanted to have.
Design it as you want to.
Look at this, by the way. This is the set. I know you're changing sets right now.
Yeah.
This is set in Orlando, which that thing is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
How much of that was created by the team there, and how much of that was what you wanted to create in terms of your
the
studio? Yeah.
The set was. I said to the producer, I said, I'd like to be sitting at a table talking to somebody.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
They come up with the rest. They got these screens and
Beautiful.
And the logo and we're using a studio, and actually it was from a ministry called
Reinhard Bonnke's.
is Reinhard Bonnke's ministry.
Yeah.
And if we give him airtime, he gives us a studio.
Oh wow.
So then we had to rent cameras and the camera people and all that, which is pricey.
Oh yeah.
Even just
Well,
that.
you had this big boom microphone or camera that came down.
So we didn't own the studio. We shared that because we allowed them to use airtime, and then we'd rent the cameras and the camera people come in, and so it was nice. I mean, it's very nice. Now that COVID has hit, we're not going there.
Yeah.
Because the last group that this year. And we're trying to be careful. But, but the floor manager got COVID the next week, and two of the guests got. I said,
She said, "We're good."
Yeah, we're not. We're not
you said to me, we met for breakfast this morning, and we were at the little coffee place, and one of the first things you said to me is, "Everything changed."
Yeah, everything changed.
And I think that's actually a really important point as you're sitting here watching, is to remember that everything changed, and most people, at least in the United States, to them that means, oh, that's bad. But that also means there's other opportunities.
Oh, there's great new opportunities.
Now you have the opportunity to reallocate some resources and create a studio here in Denver. Well, you live in Castle Rock, but here in Denver.
Here in Denver, yeah. We'll do a studio here.
Right.
And then people won't have to fly to Orlando.
Yeah, and you won't have to either.
Take 2 or 3 days out of their life.
Right.
If I can have an hour of your time, we can do a show.
That's awesome.
So that will be starting soon. We're running some reruns right now. But within the next few weeks, we'll be doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
I'll probably need your help, Ed, because
I'm on board, man.
You know how to do this, and I don't.
All right, so we're going to go into some questions here in a little bit. I am here with my friend Rich Marshall. We got connected a couple years ago, dude, and hit it off almost immediately. In fact, if I remember correctly, we were on the phone. I was in San Diego, and you were in Castle Rock, and a week later, we were having breakfast together in Castle Rock, which was pretty cool. So I have a big affinity for Colorado, and especially standing in streams with a fly rod in my hand.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Okay, so I want you to take us out onto this TV set. Because for most people most of the people who are watching now are either speakers, authors, experts, or influencers, just like you were when you walked out onto the TV set for the first time. But for most people, the idea of talking to a TV camera is very scary.
Yeah.
You hadn't done it. You've done it. You've been on TV off and on, but you really had never had your own show.
Correct.
So what was it like walking out on your first show? What did you do to prepare? And then I really want to know, because you got a lot better. How did you get better?
Well, so I said, okay, we'll do a little opener and a little close, and I want to do the bulk of the show without a break. So it's a 30-minute show, which means 27 to 28 minutes.
Yep.
And so if I do 2 or 3 here, 2 or 3 minutes here, that leaves 20 minutes in the middle. So we're going to do a 20-minute conversation.
Because you wanted the majority of your show to be this.
I wanted to be like this, and I didn't want, now look at this. I mean,
Right.
That helps some places. I wanted to highlight. See, the name of the show is God at Work, so I want to highlight how God is at work through you.
Okay.
And how does God use you, and what's happening as a result of it. So I thought, I'll get a scripture to start because I'm a Bible teacher.
Yeah.
So a verse or two of scripture that'll launch us. Then we'll talk. So I'd have a list of questions. Questions are out now. I have a conversation. It's like you don't have any questions. I mean, because that didn't allow any freedom of conversation. What's next question?
It's really true, isn't it?
So I got rid of my questions.
How many episodes did it take till you toss the questions?
Halfway through the first episode, I realized that wasn't
Really?
working. Yeah.
So as we're doing the show, this is something I learned too. So I just want to lay this point down because I think it's really interesting. So I realized about the third show that I did an interview that I don't do interviews. I do conversations. We're just talking about, today we were at breakfast. We talked about the country. We talked about each of our health.
Yeah.
We talked about different kinds of cancers for some reason.
Yeah.
We talked about all different kinds of doctors, our healthcare system, our families, and the future in about 40 minutes.
Right.
Because we're just having a conversation.
Right.
And now I didn't sit down and go, so, how is your family?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I realized, like in a show, you're having a conversation. So you, in the middle of the first show, realized that you were going to have a conversation, and then you threw the questions out. So you just let the conversation go in the direction that it goes after the introduction. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So the biggest test was my fourth or fifth interview, and there are two guys who are in business together, and they're both from the same city.
Oh.
So, and they're going to be not back to back, but like 2 or 3 weeks apart.
Okay.
So we did this one and talked about all their business and everything. So the next show, just before the next guest came on, my producer said, "Hey, Rich, we've covered all of that stuff that you were going to talk to him about.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what you're going to do, but it's going to be different." So I turned to him. We're sitting at the table like this, across the table. I said, "Hey, remember all of our conversation?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "We're not doing that." He said, "What are we doing?" I said, "I don't know."
That's great.
So we came on air. We came in. I asked him a question. I asked him a second question. The third question, this guy started weeping.
Wow.
I mean, something just touched him deep. And he's weeping, and I'm weeping. And I've got 20 minutes, and we're like 8 minutes in. And neither one of us can talk.
Wow.
So I said, "Folks, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back." I've not done that since. We've never, ever again had to take a break. But that time, he and I had to refocus.
Wow.
Because I learned, I knew in advance of that, but I learned for sure that when you don't know where to go, there's a power that will help you get where you need to go.
So
this was God at work in my life and his.
You just struck on such a nerve.
Yep.
And you're just both moved in that conversation, and
Right.
it just basically took you to a complete another level.
Another place. And so suddenly we were not talking about the business that he was in. We were talking about how he got there.
Wow.
And the steps that got him there. That's where the emotion came, because it involved a divorce and a loss and all. And as he went through it, he's just, whoa, it was hurting. Because we've all been through those times.
Oh, yeah.
They're different.
Yeah.
But we've all been through the time. You have too. Yeah, I mean, you've gone through this thing or that thing, whatever it might be. And sometimes it just hits you with emotion. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're not handling it. It doesn't mean you're out of hope. But it means you got to focus. So that helped me a lot to say, you know what, I don't need to know my questions in advance. I need to know the person. So now I study the person. Who is it? What do I know about them?
So, that's interesting. So instead of the topic, you look more into the person.
Yeah.
So you could say, like when I did in the beginning, well, you were a pastor here, and interesting. By the way, as you're watching, thank you for your great comments. The website for Rich is below. It's God is Working. I think I spelled that right. God is Working.
You did. You spelled God right. Correct.
Good all caps too.
Yeah. Well,
So
that'll work.
So when you go there, I think that'll take you right to the show. Right? Is it true?
No, you can get the app though to God.
Okay,
God
great.
TV.
Great.
The God TV. Go to get the God TV app, and it'll take you to the shows under Original God TV Originals.
Okay, got it.
And you can see Ed Rush and I on there. It's about number
that's show 15, baby.
number 15 out of
a great
115
show, man.
now. Yeah.
Flew in Orlando. You had, if I remember, you had 16 people there
Yep.
over 2 days.
Yep.
Rodney Tollison was there, who
Yep.
actually recently passed away, a good friend of ours. Perry Marshall was there, if I remember correctly. So you've interviewed some serious people, man.
Oh yeah.
Legit.
Perry Marshall. I quote Perry on this.
Yeah.
Some of you might know Perry Marshall.
Yeah.
And Perry says, "For the last 5 years, when I get up in the morning, I spend time with God before I read my emails." And he looked at the camera and says, "And if you're not praying before you read your emails, you're just plain stupid."
Yeah.
I said, "Really?"
He said it. I didn't. I know.
Yeah,
By
it
the
was
way,
powerful.
I'm going to have Perry on here in the next couple weeks. He just wrote another book.
Oh, good. Yeah, he's
I
great.
thought you were going to say, in the morning I read my Bible and then my emails because I want to know what both sides are thinking.
Yeah,
So
that'd be another way.
That would be the way to do that. All right, so in a moment we're going to get to your questions. Anything you have on anything having to do with TV or Rich's story or anything. So I want to go back to TV. So if somebody wants to have their own show, if they want to have their own brand or following, what would you recommend, knowing what you know now? I mean, this is a guy who's on DirecTV, streaming into at least 300 million households, I think you said, right?
Yeah.
At this point. Actually, it's not just on DirecTV. It's on a whole bunch of other networks.
It's on DirecTV here in the U.S.
In the United States, right?
Yeah, but we actually have larger viewing audiences
Overseas.
in UK and India, close in South Africa and Australia.
Interesting.
But our biggest viewing audience is India and then the UK.
So if somebody wants to do what you did, what would you recommend?
Well, I've had a few people come to me with that question, and I send them to our producers at GodTV.
Yeah.
But because then the question is, are you going to produce your own show? And if you are, there's a quality level that has to be there.
Yep.
Because, I'm going to set up a studio here shortly. And I know what lights I need,
Yeah.
what camera I need, what microphone I need, and actually even a better connection than Zoom in order to get it to go all over the world. So are you going to do your own show, or are you going to come and try to use our studio? So if you're going to use our studio, then here's what the cost is going to be. And we have limited time there because it's not our studio. We use it. So it puts your cost up because you're going to have to buy airtime also.
Yeah.
So airtime costs. So you could do on GodTV, you can do just the U.S. or you can do worldwide. Just the U.S. would be less money, of course.
Yeah.
And then we're going to guard the quality because what goes. And when we took over GodTV, there were some shows that needed to be removed.
So you took the quality of the show up.
We moved it to a higher level because. I was watching this guy with a clipboard in his hand and turning pages as he asked questions to this person. I thought, oh man, come on, this is tacky. Did you not prepare your mind? Did you? You're enough to write it down, but it just the whole thing. So we wanted to be a little bit more professional.
So start with. Would you recommend somebody start, for example, we're doing streaming on YouTube right now? Which is that where you would recommend somebody?
Definitely, because you're going to find out whether you can do it or not.
Right.
Some people do well on camera. You're a natural. You get on camera and it's Ed. So I know you, but the Ed that I know here and the Ed that I see on camera, same guy.
Yeah.
And that's what has to be. It's got to be the real person.
It's an interesting point that you just made there. It's one of the things I talk about with my speakers, and I've got a lot of my speaking students who are here, and you're that way too. And this is very difficult to do. Most of the people that I know who are on TV, and I know quite a few people that are on TV, are completely different people. Complete. I'm talking like the guy who's on TV telling jokes, great personality, and then he comes off and he's like all shy, and you're like, "Whoa, wait a second!"
Yeah,
like,
what happened to him?
And I think one of the key audience connection points, and I actually think this is great how you do this in the show, and I'm going to pull this up, which is every show that you do, you have this. You have your Bible in your hand. That's kind of like part of your brand. Well, that's part of your personality too.
Yeah.
I don't spend much time with you. It took us 5 minutes at breakfast this morning before we were joking about a Bible story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The story had to do with, we were talking about California, actually. Should I just tell them about that? You tell them what you told me. You said that.
So God said to Abraham, "I'm going to send you to the promised land." And Abraham happened to stutter a little bit, so he said, he meant California, but God said Canaan it is. So otherwise, California could have been the promised land. However, we know today
that's changed. So Rich said, "You got to get out of California, man." That's what he said, and I said, "I know." And by the way, if you're watching this and you're like, California, every time the California legislature meets, I think it's another, and I read the headlines, I can't tell if it's the Onion or the Babylon Bee or the California legislature. You're not sure if it's a parody or not anymore.
So one reason you could stay there would be to change the state.
So that's what we were talking about. It was
Yeah.
interesting because I said, because we were talking about the Bible point, but I was saying there's two models. The Daniel model is you go to the horrible place
Yep.
and try to make it better, and the Abraham model is you leave
And go.
And interestingly, in both of those two examples, it was the same city.
Yeah.
You know,
which is where Canaan came into the conversation. Yeah.
So, all right. So if you're just joining us, by the way, I saw a whole bunch of you just join us. My name is Ed Rush. I'm here with my friend Rich Marshall, and we're talking about how to launch and host your own TV show. I'm going to talk about on-air stuff here in just a second, but in a moment, we're going to have time for your questions. So put those right into chat. If you haven't said hello in chat, click on the button over here on the right. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do. By the way, this Thursday, I've got a show coming up called The Greatest Marketing Message in History. It's actually 4 words, the greatest marketing message in history. And you're not going to want to miss the show on Thursday. For those of you who did just join us, we're here on location at the Crawford Hotel, right downtown in Denver, Union Station. My mastermind group is meeting here on Thursday and Friday this week. By the way, if you're on the fence and you're like, man, I need to get myself into a mastermind group, you got about a day and a half because we're going to get here. We're going to meet here, and we actually are having an in-person meeting. 5 of our attendees are coming in via Zoom. We've got 12 coming in live.
Oh, super.
So we're going to be careful, social distance and all this that sort of thing, but we're going to have a blast.
Great place
while
to
we're
do
at
it.
it.
This venue is super.
This hotel is
Yeah.
off the chart, man. I think I had one of my coaching members actually who came down here, toured around,
Checked
and
it
found
out,
it. And I mean, this is one of the nicest places I've ever been to, in the restaurants and everything. So, really great. So now's the time to do that. So back on the TV. You are a guy who you're excellent on stage. So I've had Rich speak at my events. I've seen Rich speak at other events, and you're like me. Your natural setting is on stage in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
That's where you are your best.
Yeah, feel good
And
there.
now all of a sudden you're in a studio looking at a camera.
Yeah.
And there's nobody there.
Oh, but there is.
There's people there.
Yeah, right. Just like this. Now, see, you have an advantage over me on TV because on TV, I don't know who's watching. I mean, we tape it and show it later.
Right.
So
right.
you're doing this live. You know who's out there.
Oh, because of the interaction.
Yeah, because you can interact.
Yeah.
So I don't know that. But still, when I'm talking to my guests, I got to stop and look in the camera because I know what we're saying has got to get in here, not just through your head. So every once in a while, are you listening?
So during your interviews, this is like an insider interviewer tip, and I really like this. So during your interviews, I noticed that you did that with me. So with me, I talk to you the entire interview. But every once in a while in my interview, you would go, now, and you would look right at the camera, and you would
Right.
point like this, because this is the way Rich points like that. And you would say something, and that's part of your technique. So you would talk to the guest, but then also directly.
Yeah, because sometimes you say something, and maybe a lot of other people do, but you say something that's really meaningful, and it just go right on. And I said, wait a minute. Did you catch that?
That's good.
Did you hear what he just said? Let me repeat that to you, because there are times when you just got to put it down. Which,
Yeah, no.
but it reminds me when I'm preaching through an interpreter, people say, "Oh, it'd take a lot longer." Well, it doesn't. It takes less because you don't tend to repeat yourself.
It's true.
If you're doing it through an interpreter, but you might, if you know you got to say it a different way, if you're doing it in person with only in English. So when you're talking,
man.
you oftentimes you said something. I got to rephrase that and rephrase it, because that's got to come home. But if you've got an interpreter, you don't do it. So on TV, you might just go by that. So I want to catch it and hit it again.
I spoke in India twice. One time I did a business event in India. It was all English speaking. Most of the business people in India speak perfect
Yeah,
English.
right. That's why GodTV will work there. There's English-speaking people there.
When I went to a church, though, they needed an interpreter. And that's a completely different game. Man.
Oh, it's totally different.
I mean, you really do learn economy of words if you have an interpreter there, because you got to like.
I've done a lot of work.
They
with
kept telling me to
interpreters.
stop. Wait.
Yeah, right.
'Cause
Because
I
you
would
get
go-
going. Yeah. Right.
And I walk around.
One sentence,
So I
please.
walk around the audience, and the poor interpreter's way over here. I felt bad for that.
It's a whole different skill set. Yeah.
So back to TV, and this one point that we're making here, which is interesting. As you have a show, usually what I will do like I'm doing right now, and I know we've got this angle, a little bit higher angle. It's because of the way the room's set up. Don't worry about that. But every once in a while, as the host, you stop and you talk to the camera. And then you go back to your guest.
Yeah,
and generally speaking, the guest will speak to the host, except in the case where you're interviewing someone like Rich, who knows what he's doing. You'll notice every once in a while he'll stop and look at the camera too.
Right.
So yeah, just one little interviewing tip. But normally when I meet with somebody, I say, just talk to me, and I'll talk to the camera. So I think that is that's really good. Thank you, Robert, who said this is Rich. Truly, even though it sounds like a pun.
Thanks, man.
So thanks, buddy. By the way, we're going to take your questions. So if you have any questions at all for Rich about the journey, about TV. So what else do you have? What other TV tips that we wouldn't know that maybe behind the scenes stuff or performance stuff or preparation stuff or anything from the TV side?
So when I say I go on air without notes, doesn't mean I didn't prepare.
Right.
I mean, I spend a lot of time getting to know the person.
You had stacks of notes when I was there, but you did that many shows in a weekend.
Yeah, well, see, you were still early enough that I had 2 or 3 pages on every guest.
Okay.
Because most of my early guests were like you, people that I knew.
Right.
But I've done a lot of shows now, and I'm meeting the person 10 minutes before we go on air. So I've studied them. Fortunately, it's easy to do today. I mean, you go on the internet and find out a lot about somebody.
Yes.
Or call somebody and talk. Yeah, right. Find out if it's true, right? Not everything.
Not everything.
I don't even know if you knew this, but not everything.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So,
I know.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I had a lot of notes, and then later I had less and less notes. But I started asking in advance some key questions.
Yeah. Oh, so like in the beginning of the interview, you've got a handful of questions that sort of get deep.
Yeah, well, some questions that I asked even before the interview.
Oh, okay.
That I got.
So what are those,
I got notes
what are those
back.
questions?
Well, the one I've come up with most lately is in the book of Romans in the Bible, chapter 10. The Apostle Paul says, "My heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved."
Saved, yeah.
So I started saying, "What is your heart's desire?"
That's a great question.
What is it? So you can put it this way: what's your passion?
Ooh,
what drives you?
That gives me goosebumps, man.
Yeah, well, you do when you think about it, because I realized that. See, for years when I first started doing marketplace things, people would say you need to do some stuff on air.
Really good.
And I said, no, I won't. I'm not going to tape my things because I need to look you in the eye.
Yeah, that's good.
But I realized I can get 12 people look them in the eye, or I can get 1 million people and look them in the eye on the camera.
Yeah.
So I had to switch my whole mindset there to the fact that I don't need to sit in the room and read the room and know the response. I need to know what is happening in your heart. So when I hit a point, like you just said, that one hits the point. So when that happens on air, then you settle on that, because somebody
question.
out there is also being hit.
This one, write this down. Somebody put this in the chat. So you say, what's your passion? What's the desire of your heart?
Yeah.
Let me tell you how powerful this question is. I'm going to ask you in a moment what other questions you have. But I'll often be doing a coaching session with a coaching client. We'll be working on their business. Let's say they're a doctor, and we're talking about how to get more patients and how to build a more streamlined practice. And I'll just feel the energy in the room is just sort of like in the middle, And then I'll stop and I'll say something like this, and I'll phrase the question like you do. What's your passion?
Yeah.
What is it that I often say, what is it you really want to do?
What do you really want to do?
There's no constraints. You don't have to worry about anything. And all the money was taken care of, your family was taken care of. What would you want to do? Or what is it that drives you? And sometimes, I was on the phone this week with a guy who is a very accomplished cosmetic surgeon. And he said, I love what I do. And I love seeing the transformation. Yeah. And I thought, great.
Yeah.
Now we're going to pour our heart into this business.
Right.
But I also have some people who go, man, if I could, I would go work with kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's get working with kids, man.
Let's start moving toward that.
If your heart is urging you in a direction. So I always tell people, I say, generally speaking, your heart can be trusted. Yeah. Sometimes you get some weird stuff, but for the most part, you can trust.
Yeah.
And if your heart is moving you, so this is I love this, because now in an interview, you can get to the point where somebody could be emotional.
Yeah.
because they're so connected with what they're talking about, and it's not just like the nuts and bolts about their business or whatever.
Well, and sometimes that question, and in your coaching, you're going to see this a lot more rapidly, or let me say, you can do something about it quicker than on a TV interview. But if you're not doing your passion, you're not really fulfilling who you are.
Yeah.
You want to work with kids, but you're doing this other thing just to make money.
Yeah.
That means now that money has become your God.
Yeah.
And we need money. And God wants us to have money. I mean, God is not opposed to being rich.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout his Bible, he talks about prosperity.
He said he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills.
Yeah, right. So we want to understand. I just need a couple of those, right?
Yeah, just a couple of hills.
But if we can just work in the area of our passion, that's. Oh, so something's going on in Ed Rush's mind right now. If you don't know
the cattle, no, you said I said he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. You said if I could have a couple, and I think you meant
Couple of mountains.
cattle. Oh no, you meant the hills too? Because I said I'll take a
couple. Did I mean a couple? Well, so
couple
I probably
hills.
meant a couple of
Couple
cattle, but
hills.
I'm not going to admit it after you said a couple of hills. Come on, I'm not going to let you get ahead of me on that.
That's really funny, man. You cracked me up, dude. So thank you, Barry. The questions, by the way, were: what are your passion?
Yeah.
The desire of your heart. What a great question, man. So I will tell you from experience that doing that journey personally, which we're always in that journey, but asking yourself that question, and truly being part of the issue with me was just being honest with myself, like getting through those things. But when you figure that out, wow, it's just everything comes alive.
See, so here's what changed to me. Because all my friends have retired. I'm 76 years old. I don't need to be doing this, but this is my passion.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing it because this means more to me than not working.
Isn't that great?
Now I don't work as long anymore. I don't work. I don't punch a clock. I don't work 40 hours or 60 or 80 hours a week. And I've spent a lot of time with my wife, but I get to do what I really, really want to do.
Great?
And that's the fun thing. You can do that all your life. You can do it till one day you die, and that's what I plan to do.
The guy who introduced us, Rich, said, "You're going to really love Rich Marshall, but his wife Wilma." That's how he said it. He goes, "But his wife Wilma, boy, she's off the charts."
She is. Yeah,
you got a great wife, man.
No doubt about that.
A good entrepreneur's wife too, which is hard to find. What other questions you ask behind the scene? You got any other good nugget questions you ask your guests?
Along that. So, what's your dream for the future? How you get? If this is your passion, what are you doing to fulfill it? What?
Okay.
And also, what have you done? Let's have some stories Okay, I found my place. What was the result? I found my place. What are the goals? So you kind of hear and you're looking back and forward.
It's really good, man.
We had 20 minutes on my show. It's less than we've had right now.
I know. Yeah,
it goes quick.
And I like this. I like longer form. You have a 30-minute show slot. There's nothing you can do about that. But I like being able to go a little deeper. Sometimes the best stuff comes out of my show right towards the end because you really are starting to go deep. Yeah. I like this. What's your dream for the future? And I'm going to tell you part of my journey. Now, we talked about this on your show. But my vision, and you know this if you've been following me, is to transform the way we lead as a country and to be instrumental in that. And I can tell you my mistake, and this is it was just interesting as you said, what's your dream for the future? My mistake was to think, okay, when I get there, then finally I'll be doing the thing that I've been meant to do my whole life, what God wanted me. And then all of a sudden I realized this is the thing too.
Yeah.
It's now. And
this is the step to get there.
Yeah, and it's like you engaging. I mean, 20 people could watch this video interview we're doing, or 20 million could watch this interview that we're doing. But either way, it's having an impact on people. And fundamentally, the mission is to change and impact people anyway. Yeah. So I think this is really great. And then the other question. So the first one was I'm just writing these down. The first one was the passion. What's your dream? The second one is what's your dream for the future. I really like that because it engages the heart around something that somebody wants. And then the third one is what have you done? And that really unlocks some stories that people can tell you, which I think
and if there are no stories,
there's no passion.
then something is wrong.
Yeah, there's something wrong. I know.
So a side story on passion. I was in Afghanistan, 2002.
Wow.
Not safe to be in Afghanistan, 2002, but I was there. And
Wait, that was a year after World Trade Center.
Right. Yeah.
So we were in Afghanistan there.
Well,
We're going there.
Yeah, I mean, it was the guy that brought me in was a doctor. He and his wife, they're both doctors.
Wow.
They chase crisis. If there's a crisis, they go.
They go there.
They go there. So they were in Afghanistan
Wow.
to help rebuild the nation. Wow. And so I came in to talk because I'm going to take business. So they brought me in to talk to business leaders. I met with the governor, the director of commerce for the nation, whatever. And so I have a seminar, and my translator was their best English student from the class. So they got in there by teaching English at Kabul University. That was their invite.
Wow.
And they brought in 30 Filipino women, mostly men and women, who speak English to teach English. And so that's what they were doing. So the best student became my translator. So I'm using this word passion. You're just learning English. You don't learn passion as a heart's desire to change the world.
It's more like what happens in the bedroom.
It's a romantic passion. So I said, "What's your passion?" He said, "Woo!" I was like, he was nervous. He did not want to translate
He thought
that
you
word.
were like hitting on him or something.
Yeah, we had to work. We're up there working to find a word that would work. And in the same meeting, late in the meeting, there's 3 guys walk in, and they all look like Osama bin Laden. I mean, they're tall, they're bearded, they got the robes on, and I'm talking long table. My translator and I are up at the front, and these 3 guys come in an hour or 2 into a 4-hour session, and they looked around. 2 of them picked up chairs and brought up one set of chair right here next to me, set of chair right here next to my interpreter.
Wow.
I mean, we're not going to sit in the back, and I'm worried now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
You watch the news.
I'm thinking I'm in trouble. They're here. They're going to do. Well, they weren't. They wanted to start a business.
Wow.
They had come. Can you help me start a business? Can you tell me the steps to take to start a business? I have a 2-hour session. It's a little hard. So we have a little break, and they're talking to me now. They speak English, and but they're serious. I mean, serious. And I said, "Smile, man." And he didn't smile.
He said, "I'll live in Afghanistan. There's bombs going off."
Yeah, we're not going to smile. Let's take a picture. So I'm standing by and take a picture, and he's not smiling. I said, "Smile, man." And he didn't smile. So I reached over and tweaked his cheek.
Wow.
And he smiled.
That was bold.
Yeah, I was stupid. Bold is one word. It was not my brightest moment, but he smiled at least. But so the word passion can mean many different things. Is the point of this conversation?
When you use a word, you have to be careful.
Make sure
how that's being.
Make sure your audience knows the word.
What's your passion? Don't ask. Okay, so when you're in Afghanistan, that's actually really, really fun.
Sorry for the side story.
It's interesting, and we'll be wrapping up here in a moment. If you have any questions, now's the time to put it in a chat. Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up in just a couple minutes. It is interesting that you mentioned business in the context of a country like that. And so you and I both know the former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Tamrat. I know you also know Pastor Ray from Dallas, who's on his way to hopefully becoming the president of Liberia.
Yeah, right.
And there's other countries that I can think of that are one way or another disadvantaged. Mm-hmm. Afghanistan's obviously one of those. Truly, God has the answer to all of the problems of the 197 nations around the world. Yeah. This is not the comprehensive and only answer, but business and entrepreneurship can turn a country around like nothing else other than just the gospel, just totally dialing it. But frankly, a lot of times those things happen hand in hand. Yeah. And if you give people the freedom to trade based on value, not forced price supplies or anything like that, if you give people the opportunity to do it, they will with a smile on their face. Yeah. And that's why I love business, because fundamentally it's one of the most democratic things that we do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it's really interesting that story about those 2 guys wanting to do business in Afghanistan.
They wanted to do business. They were hungry. Another man said to me, "Would you come to our business tonight?"
Wow. And
meet with my team. I said, "Sure." And then I realized, I wonder what he wants, because I'd never done this before. Yeah. It was 2002. I started doing marketplace stuff in 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm early on at helping business people. And he owned the FedEx office for Kabul, Afghanistan.
Wow.
And he said, worldwide, FedEx is 98% on-time delivery. He said, since I took over, we're 100% on time.
Wow.
And our goal is to never miss.
In Afghanistan.
In Afghanistan.
That's amazing.
So I'm
Wow.
talking to this crowd. There was not a Christian in that group. They didn't ask me in as a pastor.
Yeah.
They asked me in as, can you help me with our business?
Wow.
And they had a general sitting there. I mean, this older, retired general. And he didn't speak any English. The rest of their team did. Because
A lot of our generals here don't speak English either, so
right.
we're on even ground.
Yeah, that's good. So these guys had lived in either New York or Pakistan
Yeah.
or somewhere until they could freedom, and they were back. So, but if a question, they didn't really know if I was right, they would turn to him.
Wow.
And tell him, and he would, or I was looking for the nod.
Yeah.
So he gave them to me all but one, and that's for another time on air.
Wow.
It was just fun.
How many countries have you been to? Like ballpark guess, number wise, 20,
Over
30?
50.
Over 50 countries.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's 197 countries in the world, dude. That's almost a quarter. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think 54 or 5, something to that neighbor. Yeah, it's fun. I don't want to go to any more.
You're good?
I'm good. My last one God told me about was Uzbekistan.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You went to Uzbekistan it was in the winter, too,
It was
wasn't it?
January this year, yeah. Yeah, the Lord told me to go in 2020. It's a good thing I went in January. I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, I know.
Because you can't go there now. But yeah, that was another experience.
Standing on a frozen street corner, weren't you?
Yeah.
Just trying to find out what the next step was.
And the only word I got was bizarre.
That's another story for another day.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Marshall is in the house. We're talking about business and TV and ministry and life and your journey. And in a moment, I'm going to give you the opportunity to wrap this whole thing up. But let me ask you a question. What is your passion? What is it that gets your heart pumping?
So my passion is my life purpose statement. To release destiny for business leaders.
Wow. I love that.
So
Release destiny.
So one of my gifts is in communicating, release.
Wow.
You can say whatever. Destiny is, so what is finding your passion. And then the group that I do it for are business leaders. So I had to say no to a few things. Because when I was a pastor, they'd want me to do this, that, and the other thing. And once I was no longer pastoring, a church would say, would you come and do this? I'd have to say no. Because I'm focused on releasing destiny to business leaders.
Wow, I like that.
And just recently, it was last weekend this happened, a business leader here in Denver said, would you come lead a marriage retreat for some of our leaders? And I said, no.
Because it's not your passion.
I don't do marriage retreats.
Yeah.
He said, would you pray about it? And I prayed about it, and the Lord said, you've got 6 of the best leaders in Denver with their wives. Maybe they're the best leader in Denver in that room. They're all business leaders.
Yeah.
How does this not fit? I said,
I'll go.
okay, I'll go. So my wife and I did a marriage seminar a couple weekends ago, and it was fun. There were just 5 couples there, plus us.
Wow.
And just able to pour into them.
Oh,
and
and this is
releasing destiny for business leaders.
This is worth another show. But I'll just say this. My experience with business people is that most of the people I've worked with have either had their destiny diverted or flat out stolen.
Right.
And so part of what you do is restore the person to the track that God has them on. And I think you do too. You have a mission on this earth that God hasn't got for you. And if you don't do it, there's no plan B.
Yeah.
So all the things you see missing in the world is because the people didn't plan A, people never got there.
Right. Yeah.
So don't blame, like Congress or the White House. It's all of our fault.
Right.
So what you do is you put someone back on that track.
Sometimes you got to find the track.
Interesting.
And you put them back on it, or assure them that they're on the right track.
Amazing.
Or show them the track they should be on. I mean, and there's a way to do that. It just, you got certain gifts. Obviously, you're going to have the gifts to match this passion.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have this deep desire. And then you got to figure out who am I going to do this with or for. So just 3 steps there.
I love it, man.
What's this? What's this? What's this? It works.
So we are running out of time. I'm going to have you answer a quick question, and then I'm going to have you wrap
All right.
You're going to wrap up, and I'm going to ask you actually to pray for everybody who's watching today, that God would bless them to fulfill their destiny.
Yeah.
But real quick question from Denise, who says, what do you believe was the turning moment in your life? So do you have a short version of this?
Oh, man.
I know you too well.
I think I've had a few turning points.
I know. Good.
No, a turning point came. Actually, you got to fit this into a context. I've been preaching for years.
Yeah.
I'm walking out of my office to preach one morning, and it's like I stepped out my door, and God spoke to me, not out loud, but in my mind. He said, "Do you know what you're about to say?" So, of course, I got my notes.
Yeah.
He said, "No. Do you know what you're about to say?" When
Did you know it?
When God asks you that question, you sit back down.
Yeah.
What is it, Lord? I'm praying. He says, you're on the right track, but you missed this. And I said, oh, wow. And I missed that. I would have missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was that moment I knew about my calling to business leaders.
Wow.
That's what God gave me that morning. I preached 15 minutes that day. The dream of everybody in the congregation that their pastor would preach 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I usually preach longer.
They can get to the Dairy Queen faster.
Yeah, right.
The Sunday brunch or whatever. Yeah.
The Sunday buffet, whatever it is. So I still, when you asked me that, thank you, Denise, for that question, because I know right where I was, right what I was doing, and that changed my life.
There's an old joke about the buffet. You know, the Episcopalians show up first, and then the Baptists show up second, and then the Charismatics show up about 2 hours later on Sunday after church is over. But that's the all right. So here's what I'm going to have you do. I would love for you to have the last word. So you are a person who helps people find and release their destiny. And as you're watching, every time I hear Rich talk, I think, man, I want more of that. So what I'm going to have you do is just look at the camera and talk to the person listening about their destiny. And then what I would love to have you do, we do this every once in a while on this show, and I'll just tell you, I know we come from all different kinds of spiritual backgrounds, and I'll just say it's okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just talk directly to the camera and talk about the destiny that somebody has that you can help release. And then I'd love for you to just pray that anyone who's listening and anyone connected to our community would just be able to just speed their way to the mission that they have on planet Earth, and how they can do that faster. So let's do that.
Okay. So it starts with this, a belief system that includes, I'm going to call it God. You I don't know where you are. I'm going to say God has a plan for you. And so he's going to help you get there. And he made you so that you could fulfill it. So you're going to start with what your skill set is. Because if you don't have a skill set to match what you believe you should do, it's not going to work. So what are your skills? And you can write down, when I do a seminar, I have a list of 40 or 50 skills. I write, I talk, sports, whatever. And then the second thing is what really captures your attention. What's your passion? As Ed and I were talking. If you get, you can find 2 or 3 skills, abilities, just put it that way, 2 or 3 things you're good at. And what you're really passionate about. When those two match, then you can start saying, who am I going to do this for? Because you might say, I'm going to be a teacher, but that could mean preschool students, or that could mean graduate students at Harvard. So, it could mean like Ed is teaching you how to increase your ability to run your business, whatever it might be. So you want to find out who your target group is. So your passion, your skills, your target group, and then write a sentence. Like Ed asked me the question, and I said, hey, mine is releasing destiny for business leaders. It's 5 words. Releasing destiny for business leaders. Just 5 words. And that helps me decide everything I'm going to do. Ed says, hey, will you come do on the show? Does that help me? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So it helps with that. So, and my belief is that God created you with the skill set and the passion, and then he'll put together the opportunity to do that. So my prayer is this. It can be a real simple prayer. Father God, you know exactly what she needs right now, what he needs right now. You've already given them skills. You're stirring in their heart a passion. Just right now, let her know this is it. Write it down. Let him know this is it. Write it down. God, I believe you will help to do that. So I pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Your skill set, what captures your attention or your passion? Who is it for? Which I love, because this is We
Target.
teach target
You
market,
gotta target
baby. I
somebody.
love it.
Yeah. I might have got this from you.
Put
I
it
don't
down.
know.
No.
Except
Okay,
I think
no,
I
don't
knew
think-
this before I met you.
This sentence, write down a sentence, and then the last one I wrote is just go for it.
Just go for it.
Just go for it. And just
Yeah.
understand that God's going to zigzag you along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, is that ever true. Thank you, Barry, for that awesome comment. My man, Rich Marshall, who indeed is in the business of releasing destiny, and you've certainly helped me out, my friend.
Oh,
Quite a few
I believe you
breakfasts
are
at
pretty
Pegasus-
far down the road before I met
Pegasus
you.
Gate. Well, you know.
But you know what, though? It was if you believe in God-designed appointments.
Yeah.
Because when I first talked to you on the phone, you said, "Hey, what are you doing for lunch Friday?"
Yeah.
I said nothing. Why? Well, I'll be at Denver. Yeah, you came to Denver so we could have lunch. It was like, but that was it. I mean, it was.
You figured that out. You caught me.
We met that day. Yeah.
It's so funny, man.
Yeah.
Amen, Wendell Bugs. Amen. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Rich Marshall, give him a clap and a 5 in chat.
High five.
I'll talk to you on Thursday. Thursday's show, by the way, is the greatest marketing message in history. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you.
Hey, it's good to be
love
with
you,
you.
and I like you, and you know that.
I love you too, man. Yeah.
All right, God bless. EdTalks Live is out.